Miss Cianimus made a video one time on King of the Monsters that I was hoping Brayden and I could cover it, but I figured, you know what, I'm gonna do it myself. I'm gonna do it myself, since, you know, it's a much more easier task to do it on my own, I think, than just having to schedule a whole, you know, thing. Besides, it's a lot better to do this now, because this takes place before the what's it called? The debate, the King of the Monsters debate. At least the sequel. All right, we haven't. We had the first one. It was terrible because we weren't really making any progress here. No minds were changed. It kind of just felt like a draw. But something that I noticed that Cianimus does a lot is that whenever he's arguing in favor of King of the Monsters, it almost seems like he's just using assumptions of what may be there. For example, when I brought up the issue of the courtroom scene with Sarazawa, Sam Coleman, and Vivian Graham, they left the meeting without it being adjourned, and given the status of Monarch, as well as the sanctions that could be placed on someone just by leaving the court without being adjourned, especially a court of that magnitude and importance, I think that Sarazawa and Graham and Coleman would be arrested then and there for that. But then Coleman says, "Oh, I'm going to confer with my colleagues," and Cianimus used that as like, "Oh, you see, that could have been a way to ameliorate the situation." My British accent is horrible, but the point is that he latched onto that as a counterpoint when all that means is, oh, he's going to talk to his colleagues. That doesn't really imply that the sanction could be lifted. And if we're going to be logical, then there's absolutely no reason why the sanction should be lifted, because no reason to lift that sanction has been provided. I mean, there's not a good enough reason to lift that sanction unless the entirety of Monarch submits to the government of, well, the authority of the government. But even then, that doesn't really need to happen, and the meeting being adjourned at the courtroom, whether that happens or not, wouldn't matter anyway, because the meeting itself is redundant. Because the whole meeting is to discuss how Monarch is now right now should be a part of, commandeered by the government, the U.S. government to be more specific, but the UN is heavily involved in this whole operation. So the issue was, okay, so Monarch needs to be commandeered. Give us the reasons why you shouldn't, because you have been withholding information from us, which is technically considered treason. So there is not a good enough reason unless you just wave the white flag and say, you know what, Monarch now belongs to the government. There is nothing we can do. But the thing is that it already happened in 2014. In 2014, I don't remember. It was a Navy SEAL. He commandeered the operations of Monarch after the death of Joe Brody. Well, actually not after, but, you know, when they were picking up Joe Brody from the aftermath of Ginjira, the Ginjira plant, at least the reconstructed plant.
Captain Russell Hampton. Glad to find you, sir. I've been briefed on your work with Operation Monarch. Now I'm told your organization has situational awareness of our unidentified creature. Is that right? I'm here to inform you that we are now taking over operational authority from Monarch. So I'm going to need you to come with me.
But even if we're going to accept that, you know what, sure, this is going to happen, this is this thing that's happening in this film, there is absolutely no reason why the UN should allow Monarch to do its own thing up until the point where we see the oxygen destroyer being dropped and just the government just goes away. It's just strange. It's a strange thing to latch onto, and I think it's just Cianimus grasping at straws because, well, really, there's not enough in the movie to really help justify what is happening, right? There's not enough to justify everything that's going on. So, anyway, Cianimus really loves King of the Monsters. I think it's been made very obvious by the way he talks about it. He really loves this movie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this video that he made, the revelation of Godzilla, or King of the Monsters, or whatever it's called. I'm going to talk about this video because this video, it upset me because of its biblical illiteracy. There's just something about this video that just bothers me quite deeply. So we're gonna talk about it.
Deep within a forest temple, an angel is born. She then slinks away to a quiet place to change into her final form.
Which, by the way, happens arbitrarily. Completely arbitrary. Nothing prompts this. Nothing sets this up. She just kind of goes ahead and does it, and she just comes back at the end of the movie and just dies. She fights Rodan and then just dies all over Godzilla, and then her radiation just falls on Godzilla, and yeah, it's just very arbitrary. It's just very arbitrary. A lot of angelic imagery used on Mothra as well, because she's pretty much the same thing that Zack Snyder did with Superman, where he just had a painting of Jesus in the background, and just like the way Clark was talking about humanity, like, oh, the people of this planet, like, if I could save them, shouldn't I take that chance? Like, shouldn't I save them, try and save them, right? The whole thing with Superman in the Snyderverse is that, oh, he's Jesus, right? And you see the imagery everywhere. You see in Zack Snyder's Justice League, Superman T-posing over the sun. We see him do the exact same thing in Man of Steel when he's leaving the Kryptonian ship to save Lois. We see the exact same thing when he's talking to that priest, and we see that painting of Jesus behind his back. Like, the imagery is very obvious, very blatant. It's not clever. And I think they're doing something similar, like, oh, Mothra's like an angel. And what prompts this comparison? Oh, she just looks semi-angelic with angelic music playing in the background. Mothra's theme, but very angelic-like. That's it. That's the only thing that prompts this comparison.
Deep beneath the ocean, a god makes himself known.
That's one thing, right? It's weird that Godzilla does this because, number one, this is supposed to be an intimidation display. The Monarch scientists know that this is an intimidation display. If it's supposed to be for intimidation purposes, why is he doing it at Monarch if that's not the immediate threat? If it's for Ghidorah, then why is he doing the intimidation display now and not when he's actually there confronting Ghidorah? If it's for a warning, then why would you call it an intimidation display? Because that's clearly not supposed to be an... If it's supposed to be a warning, why call it an intimidation display?
Some trepidation, the humans hiding in their fortress open up to the god and bask in his glory.
This is really flowery language, and it's very annoying. I just want to point it out. It's very annoying that he does this. And the pauses he makes too, like, and then Godzilla arrives to this place. It's very stifled. I don't like it.
What's with the light show?
It's an intimidation display.
Show.
It's an intimidation display.
See, even they say it's an intimidation display.
I think it's for us.
Again, so it's if it's for them, then why would he waste time doing it to them? And if it's to warn the humans of something, why do they call it an intimidation display if the purpose of the light show is not to intimidate them?
Delivering his message, the god ventures to the frozen wastes at the bottom of the world.
So, see, okay, so I think this is just me spitballing here, but I think the reason why Michael Dougherty did this is, oh, Dante's Inferno, the very bottom of hell is frozen, and because the bottom of hell is frozen, you got the devil in hell at the very bottom of hell, and it's frozen, and it's so obvious. Like, he's just familiar with the iconography.
After viewing the story of King of the Monsters, there is a somewhat obvious question to be asked. One that hasn't been asked yet, but here we are. Why would...
Depending on the question, I imagine the reason would be because it's a stupid thing to ask, but, you know, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
An angel and a god appear at this time. A simple yet unsatisfactory answer would be that they just did. And they...
Yeah, see, that it is simple and unsatisfactory because there is really no other logical answer. If Godzilla wanted to kill Ghidorah, he could have when he had the chance, but then he decided to imprison him to kill him later if he awoke. At least that's the implication. So why would Godzilla waste time? Oh, right, because they need to have a movie. We need to have, the movie exist. It's a it's a lazy excuse for the movie to justify its own existence. GXK, the New Empire, does this thing too with Scar King and Shimo. It does the exact same thing. Like, Godzilla imprisoned a being of evil in Mordor, essentially, or whatever, in Hell, and they break free and wreak havoc, and so Godzilla has to kill them. But if they were already a threat beforehand, why didn't Godzilla kill them then before it becomes a threat in the future? That just seems inefficient. Well, because then now we wouldn't have the movie. We wouldn't have the movie that we have now. So, yeah, he's right.
They needed to begin the story.
Exactly.
However, I believe there is an actual answer to this question.
Actual answer, as if the answer provided isn't, like, enough of an answer. I mean, just because it's unsatisfactory, it doesn't make it any less of an answer. It just means, oh, the answer is disappointingly simple, as opposed to not really an answer. No, that is... No, I don't know why he said that, or why he said it like that.
Hey guys, I'm getting an EKG reading.
For I beheld Satan, and he fell from heaven like lightning!
What?
In a time before history was written, a devil fell from the heavens.
Don't do that. No, don't do that. Please don't do that. Oh, he did the thing! He did the roar! The old... he did the thing! Oh, look at that, he did the thing!
He found himself on fertile soil, ripe for the taking. But this veritable Eden was not unguarded. This was the kingdom of a god.
There we go. Yep, yep. There it is. Godzilla is God. Yep, there it is. I was hoping he didn't say that. Okay. There's so many things wrong with that assessment that Godzilla is God, but let's keep going before, we make ourselves look like fools. Anyway.
The god and his angels defeated the devil and banished him to an icy cell.
There it is. There's the problem right there. Right there in center. So the god and his angels banished the demon to hell. That's the biblical symbolism there. It's akin to how God banished Satan to hell, because hell is functionally a prison for the devil and his angels in the book of Revelations, and in certain passages of the Bible. In the New Testament, we see that God says, "Depart from me," or that God will say, "Depart from me, ye accursed, prepared for the devil and his angels." Like, I never knew ye, depart from me, ye accursed, prepared for the devil and his angels. Yeah, like, the implication being that you're going to hell and the devil and his angels are there in hell too. Reason being that hell is not a just punishment. It's supposed to be punishment for Satan and his demons, but sinners that devolve into... there's this one preacher, I forgot his name. The point of hell, right, was to punish Satan, right? And whenever we sin, we lower our humanity to that of the demons. And so whenever people pray, "Oh, why doesn't God just punish all the sinners? Why doesn't God just send all the sinners to hell?" Well, why doesn't God just cast the demons down into hell? Why doesn't he just do that? And so the response is, "Oh, well, then what's stopping God from sending you to hell?" Because if he does that for the demons, then he's going to have to do the same thing with you. Because you're a sinner right now, too. Like, you may not believe it, but you're still a sinner. So if God has to do that with the demons, then he would have to logically do that same thing with you. So the reason why he doesn't just smite the devils, the demons, is because then he will also have to smite you, too. So... But yeah, back to the point of Ghidorah. Again, Ghidorah should have been executed already. He should have died.
Though victory was assured, the god embodied the natural order.
Again, okay, what is the natural order? The natural order is, if you don't submit to me, I will kill you. Unless you scream really loudly, in which case I will leave you alone. That is Godzilla's definition of the natural order. Example, Godzilla vs. Kong. Kong was doing absolutely nothing to alter the natural order, but Godzilla felt like he was altering the natural order by just existing, so he hunted him down until he fought him and just, like, tried to kill him. But then Kong screamed really loudly in his face, and he was like, you know what, sure, fine, I'll let you die. And then he goes after Mechagodzilla, and then Kong saves his life, and they're like, you know what, you're not altering the natural order, but if you come out to the surface world again like you did in Skull Island, they'll kill you. And that's exactly what he does in GXK. He tries to kill Kong. Until Mothra just tells him to stop, and he just goes like, okay, sure, fine, I'm not gonna kill you. It's completely arbitrary, it's completely meaningless. Like, there's absolutely nothing there. Like, the natural order is just an ambiguous term that the Monsterverse uses, that they don't even know what it means.
And to do so, one must know balance.
Again, balance. That's not a tangible concept, it's not defined, it's not explained, it's just flowery language that they use to seem deep. It's really just meaningless.
So even as he felt elation, he also felt doubt.
Where is he getting this from? Where's he getting this from? Because this is not in the movies, and to my knowledge, it's not in the graphic novels. I'm going to discard the graphic novels because, like, in the grand scheme of things, they don't really matter all that much. I mean, sometimes I like to bring them up because as examples for what you could do better, because there are some elements that are, you know, pretty good about the graphic novels. But the thing is that they're completely irrelevant to the story of the movie, right? Well, because the movies don't address what happens in the graphic novels, making what happens over there just completely and utterly meaningless. So
that mayhaps the devil would not remain subjugated for...
Which is why you should have killed him when you had the chance.
forever. So the god remained vigilant, as did his angels.
Try again.
One who embodied the cycle of death and rebirth, bestowed upon her offspring the gift of remembrance, so they too would be ready when the time came.
Source, citation needed. Citation needed.
And ready they were when the devil stirred.
Hey guys, I'm getting an EKG reading.
That EKG reading was from Ghidorah, indicating that he was still alive. Unconscious, but alive. This is...
The radar announces the grand entrance of a god. The more subtle reading declares the insidious awakening of a devil.
I hate this. I really hate this. Do you think the devil wants to make himself known? Because... You ever heard the phrase, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled is convincing people he doesn't exist? And then there's this one book by Vladimir Solovyov, and in the end of the book, I forgot the name, there's this one little short story called The Tale of Antichrist, which is how the Antichrist is going to rise into power. So, the Antichrist has this sort of chiliastic experience that pretty much convinces him that he actually is better than Jesus Christ. Like, Jesus is dead, you know, there is no God, I am this, but he also declares himself as the Son of God, and he tries to unify the religions, blah, 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 blah. See, it's all about subterfuge, lying, deceit, and that is the devil's modus operandi, and I see none of that in Ghidorah. Ghidorah is a serpent that looks like a dragon from the Book of Revelations, and that's about it. He does not behave like Satan, he does not act like Satan. The most we get is, oh, he's evil like Satan. That is it. Oh my god, he doesn't trick any titans, he doesn't... The Alpha Call is distinguishable enough. Like, one thing is mind control, because that's the thing, like, even though, biblically speaking, like, Satan does want to impose his will like a dictator, he wants to make it. He wants to make the people that subjugate unto him he wants people to do it of their own volition, in the sense that he tricks them into thinking that they're going to get something good out of it. For example, in the example of Vladimir Solovyov, he pretty much says to the Antichrist, the Great Reformer, the Superman, he goes, "Oh, I love you, I want nothing of you, do your works, do thy works in thy own name, not in mine, do as thou wilt," which is the dogma of modern Satanism. Just do as thou wilt. The worship of the self is pretty much what the devil wants, to direct. Oh, he's fine with, like, if you worship him, but usually if it would be a lot easier and a lot more ego driven. Actually, it's easier because it's ego driven, to worship oneself. And even the Bible says men will turn to each other for comfort because they have abandoned God, right? None of those subtle nuances or behaviors are exemplified in Ghidorah at all. None of it. Zero. Nada. He doesn't trick. He just mind controls with the Alpha Call. He mind controls the other Titans and subjugates them and forces them to do his will, right? The devil's machinations in the Bible are a lot more subtle, and usually it plays with the will of humanity and that's how he enslaves people. He tricks people into enslaving themselves, and then he takes control of the whip and starts whipping. That's how he does it. He doesn't, like, make himself be that obvious. He's not trying to be obvious, because if he was, then people would immediately recognize something's wrong. This is the devil. I should stop doing this. He's trying to make himself seem attractive so that other people chase after him. And Ghidorah is pretty much doing the complete opposite of that. He's making himself look more menacing, more threatening, so that he could, like, it's like paralysis damage. Not paralysis damage. It's like paralysis by analysis? No. He's just trying to paralyze his victims out of fear and then just attack them like that. Like, just look at how imposing he's being. Like, with this scene, like, he's rising from the icy hell, and he's looming, towering over these creatures, and they have things, like these little things that shoot, little bright things that try and get in their skin, but they can't because they're too small, and they're like, "Oh, what are these things? Are they trying to hurt us?" Oh, well, they know they can't, but it's really curious that, like, from Ghidorah's perspective, he just, like, woke up, and these people are just wearing these funny-looking clothes and holding these funny-looking, like, trinkets in their hands, and he's like, "Oh, what's this thing? Oh, that's weird. That wasn't there before. Like, people were just hitting me with rocks and sticks. Now they got these little contraptions that shoot these little bright little bullets or whatever. Oh well, let's dispose of them." Like, he couldn't have been more blatant or obvious with his, like, appearance, with his arrival. He couldn't have been more explicit, which is the complete opposite of how Satan operates. So the comparison between him and the devil is just entirely surface level. It's entirely just, oh my god, I don't like this.
One that was waking before the misguided humans took action.
This was sheer happenstance, by the way. Right? They got really unlucky that they happened to unleash the one Titan that not only is an alien and is not affected by conventional weapons the same way certain weapons could affect the Titans, like the Oxygen Destroyer, but also they happened to awaken the one that was also capable of controlling the other Titans. They just got really unlucky, you guys. They got really unlucky.
Both lead to yet another clash between God and devil.
Stop! Stop it! Stop this, please! Stop! You're killing me here. You're killing me. Stop it, please.
It is the humans who are coincidental in their readiness to take advantage of them, or perhaps what they did was preordained.
Is he suggesting that Ghidorah was always set to awaken anyway? It just, Emma was going to, this was always going to happen, regardless of Emma's involvement. So he alluded to something similar in our debate, saying, "Oh, he was set to wake up in the ice because the EKG readings indicated this, that, and the other." So I had to explain to him that EKG readings, I didn't actually get to explain it to him in full, but basically how EKG readings work is that they measure blood pressure and, heart. They measure basically the fact that you're alive, not that you're awake. So the fact that, even brain activity, even when you're unconscious, let's say you're in a coma, there is still brain activity indicating that you are alive. It's just that the activity is going to look a lot different because, well, you're in a coma. Your normal bodily functions are not, you're not performing normal bodily functions. You're just doing the bare minimum because, well, you're in a coma. But yeah, EKG readings do not measure the fact that you're awake or conscious. They measure the fact that you're alive. So the fact that there was an EKG reading, all that proves is, yeah, Ghidorah was alive. Obviously he must have been alive to be encased in all of that ice to begin with, because again, are you telling me that Ghidorah just came back from the dead just one day, decided, you know what, I'm going to come back from the dead the moment somebody tries to break the ice I'm encased in? Really? Are you seriously suggesting that? Because that just makes things worse. The writing here is already pretty bad, but saying that, it makes things orders of magnitude worse just by suggesting that. Because it just, a series of coincidences that just happen lucky and arbitrarily, they just happen. How unlucky did they have to have been to, awaken this Ghidorah, this specific Titan, at this time of day, at this hour, in this specific location, localized entirely within I messed up the reference. Fuck, I messed up the reference. You seriously expect me to believe that he just coincidentally awoke to these circumstances? No, that's dumb. That's stupid.
An inevitable consequence of past events.
For starters, Andrew and Madison should not have been in that location. That location is supposedly San Francisco back in 2014 when Godzilla and the Mitos were in the city. There was an entire evacuation procedure that was done before that even happened, meaning that Emma and Madison and Andrew should not even have been there to begin with. People were sending children to the hospitals, and the hospitals had a bunch of school buses where they could take all those children to the bridge. Nobody should be there at all. Nobody should be there.
Or maybe they did far less than they, or we, thought they had. But that is another discussion.
It was preordained. I think that's what he's suggesting. It was preordained. Animus, buddy, you're killing me here. You're killing me. Don't do this to me.
Let us instead refocus on the war of gods and devils, of Godzilla and Ghidorah. The biblical titles given to these characters are not
biblical titles that you give them.
Just surface deep.
Yes, they are. I've proven this conclusion. Yes, they are. They are nothing more than surface level comparisons. Godzilla, it's pretty obvious he doesn't act like a god, because God's choices are not arbitrary. If you're trying to suggest to me that his plan for salvation was arbitrary, it really wasn't.
Beyond the story of King of the Monsters outright declaring the monstrous titans as the gods of prehistoric mankind, the story itself is heavily inspired by biblical events.
No. No. No, no, don't. I feel like, no. I think I know where he's going with this.
The Book of Revelation.
No, 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 no. Hold on, I'm gonna get my Bible. Hold on. Okay. Okay. Bible. Bible. We're gonna talk about Jeebus and the Bible. So, the Book of Revelations. He's going to completely misunderstand the Book of Revelation, isn't he? And I'd also like to know which version of the Bible he's using, which translation. Certain church fathers have postulated that the idea of the Book of Revelations is not entirely chronological, more so that John is enveloped in this whirlwind of events. A whirlwind. Now, there is a chronology to it. Like, we obviously know that when Jesus returns, like, it'll be like the end all be all, right? It'll be, oh, Jesus is coming back, he's establishing his kingdom. That is like the definitive ending. But everything else is a chronologist. I think that's a word. Like, it's separate from traditional chronology. So it's kind of like a tornado of events that, yeah. And the thing about the Book of Revelations that I think is important to note was because of the contents of that is in the book, it was widely debated whether it was part of, you know, it was canon or not, right? So the reason why it's not even read in liturgy is because, according to the fathers, like there were so many things that were like really weird with Revelations. I don't remember what it was, but there were certain things that the church like was very skeptical about, and the Book of Revelations was almost not in the Bible, right? So that book is probably the most difficult one to understand. Even I don't understand it fully. I just understand like certain basic elements of it. Even the symbology is kind of lost on me, but I can tell that he's not going to understand it. So, traditionally, the Revelation, also called the Apocalypse, has been attributed to the Apostle John. The vast majority of scholars hold that Revelation was composed during the fierce persecution of the latter part of the reign of Domitian, from 81 to 96 after Christ, where John was in exile on the island of Patmos. So the revelation, which in Greek apocalypsis means the uncovering of something that has been previously hidden, in this case the final triumph of the kingdom of God. Since this final triumph is assured our faithfulness now, before its full revelation will lead to ultimate victory. Sub-themes include divine judgment of human wickedness, and number 2, the symbolic representation of most major New Testament teaching concern eschatology, the study of the last things. And the early church was convinced the second coming was near. The source for that would be Acts 2:16 and 17, Hebrews 1 verse 1, and then 1 of John chapter 2 verse 1. Verse 18. Sorry. John's vision was first of all a reminder from God to the churches to not give in to the adversaries, but to hold fast to the faith. The book also has been seen as prophecy addressing a time far distant in the era of composition, predicting actual future events, or as an exposition of the ongoing relationships and conflicts between God and his kingdom, humanity, and Satan. These three approaches are not contradictory but complementary. While seen as canonical and inspired by God, the Revelation is the only New Testament book not publicly read in the surfaces of the Orthodox Church. This is partly because the book was only gradually accepted as canonical in many parts of Christendom. In addition, in the 2nd and 3rd centuries, Revelation was widely twisted and sensationally misinterpreted, and the erroneous teachings brought troublesome confusion to Christians, a trend that continues to this day. And I feel like we're going to see this right now.
Was written by an author simply known as John. It is up for debate, and debate has been had for many centuries as to who exactly John was, what exactly his book referred to, or even when it was referring to.
I just read it. I just said what it is. I mean, I talk like he's talking to me right now, but you know what I mean.
past events or future prophecies?
Well, they couldn't have been past events. They absolutely couldn't have. There was some allusions to past events, right? Certain symbologies that are present in the Old Testament come back in the New, but it's clearly future events, not necessarily one happening right after the other, but they could be either descriptions of the same event or just different events that might happen in the distant future, at least from the point where it was written.
King of the Monsters does both,
No.
having the two wars described in the book
Oh, no.
separated by millennia. One in ancient times, and one in the modern day. The devil, in the guise of the old serpent, or a multi-headed dragon wearing many crowns, is described chasing a woman carrying a child, then making war with Jesus and his host.
Yes, see, okay, that child is the Holy Theotokos, and his child, one of the interpretations that I have heard is that the Holy Theotokos represents the church, and the Jesus representing the Logos, the Word of God, because God is referred to as like the Word, so maintaining Scripture, maintaining its purity, maintaining its canonicity, and it calls back to what was said, I don't remember in what book, but the gates of hell shall not prevail against the church. So that is one of the many interpretations that I have seen, and to this day has remained true. Let me see if I can find what he's talking about here. The woman and the drag. The woman and her child. Okay, here we go. So, now a great sign appeared. This is Revelations chapter 12. Now a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a garland of 12 stars. Then being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great fiery red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 diadems on his head. His tail drew a third of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth, and the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth to devour her child as soon as it was born. She bore a male child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God and his throne. Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God, and they should feed her there 1,260 days. And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old called the devil and Satan, who deceives the world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Then I heard the loud voice saying in heaven, Now salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ has come. For the accuser of our brethren who accused them before our God day and night has been cast down. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they did not love their lives to the death. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, because he knows that he has short time. Now when the dragon saw that he had been cast out to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness to her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and a half a time, from the presence of the serpent. So the serpent spewed water out of his mouth like a flood after the woman, that she might cause her to be carried away by the flood. But earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon had spewed out of his mouth. And the dragon was enraged with the woman, and he went to make war with the rest of her offspring, who keep her commandments of God and have testimony of Jesus Christ. And that is in the entirety of chapter 12. And ultimately this comparison that was being made in his assessment was completely and utterly false. For example, These verses, from verse 1, these verses begin an extensive parenthesis in the center of Revelation, dealing with the conflict between the church and the power of evil. Like I said previously, the great sign in heaven, the woman is either the mother or the true Israel, the church. So she is the antithesis of the harlot, the harlot of Babylon, which makes sense. The 12 stars indicate the 12 tribes and possibly the 12 apostles, and the moon under the feet symbolizes the preeminent role over creation. Her birth giving a male child is that of the Messiah, and she bears off offspring as well, like a likely reference to the church. Yeah, that would make sense. See, that would make sense. The comparison being made here is just completely hollow. It's a very surface level comparison that he's doing. Dragon is clearly identified as Satan, that we already know that. True Israel brings forth Christ, who, after completion of his saving work, ascends to heaven. The flight of the woman referred to the flight of Jerusalem church, embodying true Israel, to Pella before the outbreak of the Roman war. It illustrates there is no place for the church in this age. The 1,260 days, or 3.5 years, the classic period of apocalyptic woe, as bad as it is temporary, not the end of things. And then that's in reference to chapter 16, verse 12. The passage begins an interlude between Satan's role in stimulating persecution of the church. The war with Michael and the good angels is usually interpreted to picture an event before the creation of the world. However, the context places it just before the end of the world. Satan has been accusing the brethren, the Christians, and his downfall presages the consummation of the kingdom. Satan is overcome by Christ's self-sacrifice and that of the martyrs. Those of the kingdom, Satan is overcome for Christ, but by Christ's self-sacrifice, and that of the martyrs, those who did not love their lives to the death. Right, the martyrs. They did not cling to the earthly things, the things of the earth. They did not cling to that. The short time Satan has in the period of tribulation, just prior to the end. So, chapter 12, verse 13 to 16, Satan hates Christ and his mother. The Virgin Mary was saved by the inspiration of the angel who told Joseph to run into Egypt. Likewise, Satan hates Christ and the church and attacks the one through the other, since they are identified. One of his first activities is to persecute true Israel. The wings of a great eagle refers to the original Exodus, as in the one from Exodus, Moses, Deuteronomy, as the flood in may also be the threat of drowning in the Red Sea. However, Satan is unable to prevail. The Jewish church safely completes its exodus and is preserved during its apocalyptic period, and the church in general will be preserved. The gates of hell cannot prevail against her. Matthew 16:18. That's the one I was looking for. For Jesus' warnings about Satan, for Jesus' warnings about this flight, see Matthew 24, verse 15 to 21. Verse 17, Satan then turns his attention to the rest of true Israel's offspring, obviously the Gentile church, which has inherited from her both the commandment of God and faith in Christ. So, a way to allude to this better would have been to just have Ghidorah, certain events in just Earth, be influenced by Ghidorah, or just and just past events influencing how humanity thinks of monsters to begin with. His presence, just think of it as Hydra from the MCU, where they were just kind of pulling the strings, and they have been pulling the strings ever since, even before the Avengers movie. They were like infiltrated in S.H.I.E.L.D. and they manipulated events in such a way that it led to the events of Captain America, Winter Soldier. Think of it as that. Think of it, Ghidorah. How about this, right? Ghidorah isn't frozen, but he is secretly pulling the strings, right? He secretly awoke the Mutos and forced Godzilla to have to kill them. And he led Dagon to his... Okay, no. How about this? He led the Mutos to the Muto Queen. Not the Muto Queen. Muto Prime, to attack Dagon and have her offspring injected into Dagon's body and just eat Dagon from the inside out, and forcing having the Mutos hatch inside, and the events of 2014 play out as they do, right? You have Ghidorah secretly pulling the strings this way. that would probably be a lot more closer to the idea that Cianimus is presenting than what he presents now. That I think it would be much more biblical if he was just like a manipulator, a tempter, like he was from the very beginning, you know, trying to kill Godzilla, but he wasn't able to, so he tried to find ways to weaken him through other monsters by triggering events in the past that would lead to Godzilla slowly being weakened and weary and tired past his prime, you know, that kind of stuff. So like when Ghidorah finally arrives, Godzilla's like way too weak, so it's like a generational weakening of Godzilla's power so that Ghidorah can take control. That would be more biblically accurate than what we got in the movie.
Only to be defeated and sent down to hell for thousands of years. The devil can obviously be compared to Ghidra,
No, he can't.
especially given the monikers applied to him in King of the Monsters.
Ghidorah, the one who's many.
A false king.
The woman the devil is chasing, I interpret as being Mothra, and the child in her arms, mankind.
Mothra has been so irrelevant in the Monsterverse. She literally just shows up for the funsies. She literally just shows up so that we as fans can go, "Oh my God, it's Mothra! I love Mothra." She has no purpose in the Monsterverse beyond, you know, just showing up. She just shows up to die in this movie. And in GXK, she just shows up because why not, right? There's no purpose to her arrival. So it's funny because he says that it's bad. Cianimus has said that it's bad when GXK does it, but King of the Monsters does the exact same thing. So I don't know what distinction he's trying to make here. She literally does not do anything in this movie. She just shows up and kills she doesn't even kill Rodan, actually. She just incapacitates. She doesn't even kill Rodan. She's utterly useless in this fight. And she has not influenced humanity at all. Like, throughout the Monsterverse lore, like, she has not been relevant to humanity either. Kong fits that title better precisely because he is more connected with humanity than Mothra ever was. Come on, dude.
The otherwise indifferent Titans. Mothra has a close connection with the human race.
Established by what?
Living in their temples.
Okay, she was worshipped. That doesn't necessarily mean that she cared. That doesn't mean she cares. She just kind of stares at people. Like, she stared at Emma when the Orca was activated. She stared at all the people in the waterfall when she grew wings, and that's it. There is absolutely nothing to it. No consequence to how the characters interact. No consequence to how the character. The one thing you could say was influenced by Mothra was just get Mothra showing up and indicating that Godzilla was alive, but after that she didn't do anything else. All she did was like show up to where Godzilla sank, and then people were like, oh, Mothra is reacting to Godzilla, we have to go there and help him and resurrect him. That's it. That's the only thing she does. And you could argue that's like the most that's really consequential, because if it weren't for them, like, Godzilla would be like dead. And yeah, sure, fine, whatever. I'm not gonna say that it's not consequential, but to say that Mothra has a connection to humanity and that she's important to humanity, she's really not. She's important to Godzilla, but that's it. That's it.
And even entrusting her offspring to them.
How
so
do
it
you...
makes sense that the motherly Mothra would try to protect...
She entrusts her offspring with humanity so much that the first thing she does when she wakes up from her cocoon is to kill them. And if it weren't for the Orca, she would have continued to kill them. And if we're going to assume that Mothra is going to, like, act the same way, like, Mothra's spirit is going to be, like, in the offspring, then really just...
vulnerable mankind from the arrival of the invading Ghidra.
Whose storm swallowed both men and gods alike.
Obviously, the war of the devil against Jesus and his host is played out by Ghidra against Godzilla and the Titans. Yes, Godzilla is Jesus.
No. What? Godzilla is Jesus. I don't want to keep watching this video anymore. I don't want to watch this anymore. This borders on blasphemy. This genuinely borders on it is almost heretical to even suggest this. This is almost heresy. This is
A godlike figure trying to bring peace to the world is distrusted and persecuted by earthly governments.
he killed millions of people in 2014. Incidental or not, all that blood is in his hands. Superman did the exact same thing. I think he might have done just as much damage, if not more so, than Godzilla himself. But even still, like, people died because of him. Not to mention that Superman himself in Man of Steel committed genocide of his own people. He killed all the people that was left of Krypton and then just snapped Zod's neck like it was nothing. And then Animus, please, stop.
To the point of being summarily executed by them, only to come back to life to fight in the end times. Yes, Godzilla is Jesus.
Tell me you know nothing about Christianity without telling me you know nothing about Christianity.
Ghidra falls to the host of Titans and is imprisoned in Antarctic ice at the bottom of the world,
He's gonna make the
or
Dante,
under the world, if you may.
Dante's Inferno. He's gonna say
In
it.
Revelation, the devil would rise to once again wage war on heaven and earth, before being defeated one last time and burnt in heavenly fire. In King of the Monsters, well, but the War of Revelation is only the major comparison to be made with King of the Monsters. There are also singular details, such as Jesus having a wife draped in white.
The bride of Jesus is the church. Mothra does not embody the church. I thought she was supposed to embody Mary, the Theotokos. I thought she was supposed to embody that, like you alluded to earlier. Now you're saying that she's the church, or are you implying that Jesus married his mother? Or are you starting to see the problem here? Do you see what I mean? Again, tell me you know nothing about Christianity without telling me you know nothing about Christianity. This is offensive to me. This is just downright offensive.
The writer witnessing 4 living creatures as a significant detail of events. Heaven being silenced, followed by an offering of incense and the prayers of all mankind at the throne of God. The unworthy taking shelter in caves, whilst the true believers stand by their God and bear his mark.
There was this like false prophet figure in the short story by Vladimir Solovyov of Tale of the Antichrist. I forgot his name. I think it was not Apollyon. It was Apollonius. Apollonius. Yes, that's his name. Apollonius, the mage. He represented the false prophet. He was the false prophet that the Book of Revelation was speaking about. And Rodan fits that title a lot better. But Rodan was so uninvolved in the story that he just isn't. He cannot even begin to fit that glove, even if he tried. Also, bear his mark. Are you suggesting that the mark of Godzilla is Monarch, or what are you trying to say here?
And multiple references to stars falling from heaven.
Stop it. Stop. This is... I'm dying. I am feeling physical pain.
Revelation even describes how a fallen star is given the key to opening the bottomless pit from which fire and smoke rises, blotting out the sun, the moon, and the stars. This could easily be interpreted as Emma Russell, a star in the monster hunting corporation Monarch, falling from grace, and, having rebuilt her Orca device, has, as her ex-husband Mark puts it,
the keys to your entire magic kingdom of horrors back here.
Emma Russell, the fallen star, opens a visually bottomless pit and unleashes Ghidra onto the world, who darken...
So is Ghidra... is Emma Satan? Because, like, I do agree she's an evil bastard, but... I literally call her daughter Devilina in my Godzilla vs. Kong video. Madison. I call her Devilina. Lady Satan. I call her Lady Satan in the script. So, I mean, yeah, sort of, but that's just because she's evil. I'm not making like a biblical allusion here. I'm just calling her Lady Satan because she's evil. That's it. Oh no, God, no. So is she supposed to be? What is she supposed to be then? I feel like you're jumping between interpretations. I feel like you're jumping between illusions. You're not making things clear, man.
The skies with his storms.
Stop.
But why stop there? Revelation describes how a slaughtered lamb will break 7 seals and release great horrors onto the world.
Okay, let's actually talk about that lamb. Let's talk about that. I'm only like technically a catechumen, so I'm not allowed to teach stuff. But this offends me on a spiritual level. Now, when the lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures saying with a voice like thunder, "Come and see." And I looked and beheld a white horse, and he who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer. Let me read up until like verse 17. Hold on. When he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, "Come and see." Another horse, fiery red, went out, and it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, and that people should kill one another. And there was given to him a great sword. When he opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come and see." So I looked and beheld a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 living creatures, and saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and the wine." When he opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th living creature saying, "Come and see." So I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and the name of him who sat on it was Death, and Hades followed with him. And power was given to them over the 1/4 of the earth, to kill with sword, with hunger, with death, and by the beasts of the earth. When he opened the 5th seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain for the sword of God, and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, "How long, O Lord, holy and true, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth?" Then a white robe was given to each of them, and it was said to them that they should rest a little while longer, until both the number of their fellow servants and their brethren who would be killed as they were was completed. I looked when he opened the 6th seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood, and the stars of heaven fell to the earth, and as a fig tree drops with its late figs when it is shaken by a mighty wind. Then the sky receded as a scroll when it is rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved out of its place. And the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the commanders, the mighty men, every slave and every free man, hid themselves in caves and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains, rocks, "Fall on us, and hide us from the place of him who sits on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath has come, and who shall be able to stand?" I forgot to take off the thing in my microphone. I'm an idiot. I should have done that. I'm a complete and utter moron. I'm sorry. There we go. I bet it sounds a lot clearer now, huh? I bet the microphone sounds a lot clearer. I'm sorry. So, I'm going to read the first notes here. With the Lamb's opening of the seals, John begins a description of the science of the earth, much of it already set forth by Jesus in the Gospels. The seals are consequences of man's condition, an overview of conditions manifest since the birth of the church, which will continue until Christ's second coming. The four horsemen, and see Zechariah chapter 1 verse 8 through 17, 6 verse 1 through 8 for the model of this imagery, personify the scourges which, through the prophets, God has threatened as judgment on the faithless: war, famine, plague, natural disasters. The first rider on the white horse carrying a bow presents the spirit of conquest, reminiscent of fierce divine judgment in the Old Testament, usually wrought through the military power of adversaries. Jesus taught nation will rise against nation. The figure here probably represents liberators of the oppressed people of God. That's usually what that means. So, ascribing that interpretation onto this particular character does not make a whole lot of sense, considering that this particular character that he is referring to has killed hundreds of thousands of people just accidentally, just by walking, just by being around, without taking into account the radiation poisoning and how radiation disperses through the earth whenever the globe rotates. It's such a surface level comparison. It is abominable how somebody could come to that conclusion. This borders on heresy. This is borderline heresy.
And release great horrors unto the world, including the devil. The lamb in Revelations refers to Jesus, but a lamb is also oft used to represent innocence.
Stop.
In the Battle of San Francisco, Godzilla's fight results in the death of the young child Andrew.
Once again, none of them should have been in that position. All those children were evacuated. There was no reason why anybody should be in that location. This is a retcon. This is stupid.
Of Emma Russell. Both Godzilla's actions and Andrew's death allow Emma to be influenced by Alan Jonah down a dark path.
Let it not be understated that he just essentially said that the reason why Emma Russell embodied the Antichrist is because God, in this scenario, just basically arbitrarily killed a child for no reason. Let it be not understated that he just implied that.
And to the breaking of the enclosures that were sealed fast around the Titans. She does this by waking the Titans using their own titanic voices. This all under the guise of allowing them to bring about balance by destroying that which they consider harmful to it.
Exactly. So what exactly is she trying to achieve if that's just a guise and just a ruse? What is the point of doing that? Is she just suicidal? Is that what you're suggesting? I don't know. Like, oh, I'm going to destroy the world. Okay, well, where are you going to live then? Because you live on the world. So
angelic trumpets are sounded to bring about plagues to cleanse the world of the
unworthy. Stop it. No. The trumpets have a purpose in the book of Revelation. They have a purpose. They're not just an arbitrary comparison to the orga. Stop.
Later, when the false prophet begins to worship the devil, more plagues are unleashed without warning to assault mankind in the Great Tribulation.
Are you implying that humanity deserved it? Like, the way the book of Revelations frames it, it's entirely humanity's fault. But what humanity's doing in this film is trying to avoid more deaths by these creatures. So it's a false. It couldn't be more of a false comparison. The entire reason why Monarch is trying to be commandeered by the government is precisely to prevent more deaths, because Monarch is really bad at its job of protecting people. In fact, they produce the very kind of people that cause the disasters that kill all the people to begin with. I mean, Emma Russell. It produces those kinds of people. If anything, Monarch should not even exist anymore. At this point in time, Apex is still a thing, so they should just let Apex handle things. You know, let them build their Jaegers or whatever.
Just so, once Ghidra has risen, Alan Jonah declares his praise of the dragon's actions, and without warning,
he says this is a little much. Wait, no, what does he say? He says, "Oh, I thought we would release him gradually, one at a time." No.
the world is attacked by the entire Titan horde, all at once. Now, I must say, all of this is up for interpretation.
Yeah, but he's up for interpretation, but his interpretation is wrong. Like he agrees that, okay, well, people can have their opinions, but their opinions can be like founded on really, really bad information or incorrect information. And here he's doing the exact same thing he's accused other people of doing.
This secret story is deliberate on the part of the film.
So he says it's just my opinion, but it's also a fact. It's up for interpretation, but it's actually obvious. Make up your mind, dude. Make up your mind. Because clearly you have really, really... I don't even know what translation of the Bible you were using, or assuming you even like read, because that's not what that says. That's not what the Bible says.
Given the many references, connotations, and imageries relating to gods and other religious aspects.
Such as?
However,
could you elaborate on that? Such as what?
This could also be just accidental comparability. Indeed, none of these needs to be interpreted or understood to get some meaning out of King of the Monsters. It could be an allegory for climate change, the negative...
An allegory for climate change. Uh-huh. Right. What would that be then? Well, you're telling me that, oh, I'm going to try and plant more trees. Oh no, I accidentally summoned the tree demon and now he's killing everybody. Oh no. Oh no, what have I done? I need to undo this, but also just don't kill more trees because, like, environmentalism, blah. Environmentalism is a stupid philosophy, I swear to God.
Choices we as a society or individually make towards it, and the sacrifices, metaphorical ones, we will need to make to create positive change.
If you want the sacrifice to mean anything, you can't have it be metaphorical. Because then it just means nothing. It's just like putting a band-aid on an amputated arm. You can't just do that.
Or perhaps it's the story of grief and belief, and how to, and how not to, deal with both. Or, mayhaps, it's none of those things.
Exactly. It's none of those things. This was a really bad video. I didn't like it. This was a terrible video. Not understanding how certain prophecies in the Bible work, not understanding biblical and apocalyptic literature, not understanding plot elements in the very own movie you're defending. Tell me you don't understand Christianity without telling me you don't understand Christianity. This is horrible. This is a bad video. This is a really, really bad video. I am dreading the debate. I am dreading it. See, this is what Zack Snyder fans will do with not with Superman. They'll point at the little allegories and just completely ignore the sequence of events that, completely contradict whatever allegory you're trying to make. It's inconsistent with what is happening on screen, which is already inconsistent in and of itself. So, this is just the most surface level, the most superficial reading on the symbology of King of the Monsters, if you could even call it that. And it sucks too, because like I can tell Animus is a smart person because I've heard him talk about Godzilla X Kong, and he did a really good assessment on it. But then hearing him talk about this movie the way he does and say these things is just, no, this is wrong. Why would you say this? This is not how things function. This is whatever, dude.